too small, I got big dreams.
Hey everybody, welcome back to PunFun, where we have fun with the puns. My name is Ryan, and we're gonna check out, well actually it's gonna be all you need to know before the show. So I know it's not a show, it's a movie, but we're gonna check out the Eternals. Now, a lot of you may not even know what the Eternals are or who they are. You may not even be as, excited for the movie as I am at the moment, which is fine. I mean, we can't be excited for every single Marvel property. However, this is going to be a movie that is going to be very important in the sense that it's going to explain so much, and I'm going to see if I can digest a bit for you. So this is taking information from the trailers that we've seen, taking information from the comic books, taking information from stuff that we're finding online as well that Marvel has put out. Gather all that together and basically make it easier to digest for you, but also maybe have you a better appreciation of where they're going with the MCU. So what is Phase 4 all about? And it's not just like the first movies or the first shows or whatever. They all have a common goal. We'll get to that at the end of the episode, and it rhymes with Hexmen. But anyways, other than that, we're going to talk about the Eternals themselves, the Celestials, because they do play a big role in all this, obviously. But where are they going with this? What's the point of all this? And if they're superheroes that were created, like, why didn't they get such, so involved beforehand, even with the Avengers? Anyways, we're going to get into all that. If this is your first time on the, on PunFun, we highly suggest you subscribe. This way you stay on top of any of our information we come out later on. We also have this crazy surprise we have for you at the end of the show. So please be sure to stay tuned. And again, this is going to be a heavy episode. It's going to be a doozy. So you definitely want to have a tall beverage aside with you. And come along with the ride. Again, it's going to be crucial information that you will need before going to see the show. If you didn't have it, you definitely will get this pieced together later on. Again, I have not seen the movie. I cannot judge the movie. I've seen all kinds of review, and I'll also explain why those reviews are up and down. It kind of mimics another movie series or franchise, if you will, that had similar critiques. So let's get into it. First of all, we're going to talk about the Celestials. Before that, we're going to talk about the Celestials who created the Eternals. And then before that, we're going to talk about who created the Celestials, but the first firmament. So first amendment, I know it sounds like first commandment. Anyways, again, we're not going to talk about any kind of religion. We're trying to stay away from religion as much as possible. And any other thing like, evolution and everything else in between. I may mention it here and there and everywhere, but these are comic books. We're sticking it to comic books. That's all we're going to talk about. So yeah, the first firmament was basically the cosmos itself. So there was nothing in the universe. It was just this being. Was it a he, a she, and between, out of it with nothing? No, it was just the cosmos itself. It felt lonely. It said, you know what? I need to create beings because I'm, feeling lonely. So basically, she created the aspirants. So the aspirants and the Celestials. The aspirants were categorized in a way that they were, well, in the comics anyways, they were very dark and they had like a monochromatic theme, whereas the Celestials were a lot more vibrant, very colorful, and they were all about life. So not just like creating life, they were both about creating life. One, however, was immortality, so creating beings or creatures that would please the first firmament, and keeping him immortal, keeping him happy and being like, hey, I know you've been lonely, here are a few things that we've created for you that will be with you forevermore. The Celestials, however, were like, no, you need to have life, a full circle, so circle of life, and basically it was like, there needs to be a point of, birth and a point of death. There needs to be a life in between, and that's when we can appreciate life if there's actually that involved into it. So it's a battle of mortality and immortality, and basically there's a giant fight. The Celestials, say, you know what, screw this. This is not the way to go. We need to actually, kill off everything. Start it back. They go ahead and explode the first firmament that creates basically the second cosmos. The second cosmos also has different alliterations as, the universe progresses. The explosion itself actually creates the multiverse, so that's also another takeaway. So from one being, it actually exploded and created multiple, different universes. Then basically with the more cosmos being added onto it, it now started to, become more perplexed, and it morphed and evolved also, and basically became the multiverse. So another shout out to the multiverse. Now, All that being said, the Celestials were left alone because the aspirants were like, you know what, we're gonna plot a revenge and we're gonna come back full force and attack and, you know, kill your little beings that are living. Anyways, let's move all that aside. Now we're talking about the Celestials. The Celestials were like, hey, you know what, we're all about life, let's keep on going, let's go to planet and all these different rocks and whatever, let's inhabit it with beings. So now we have beings that are created, and there's three categories. They are the perfect, which are the internals. There are the worst, which is the deviants, and then you have the in-between, which are basically humans or the Skrulls or the Kree, because those are kind of the different planets and places they've been. There's all kinds of races in between. I mean, the Groots and whatever you like. What's the takeaway is that there is a perfect, there is a, you know, the worst, and there is a middle. The best basically was the Eternals, and they were not hired, but they were tasked to basically, you know, go onto planets and help them evolve, basically help them carry out their own evolution into, you know, their own little perfect world, or if anything, to achieve being an Eternal as well. So that's why, you know, you have them coming onto Earth, and they can't meddle with a lot of things. However, they do allow us, you know, technology, they do allow us, you know, some of their knowledge as we progress, and basically they were there as we were, you know, apes or furry people or whatever it is you want to say, as we progress, you know, as mankind evolved, basically. That's how long the Eternals were on Earth. That all being said, like I mentioned, the Eternals like exploding stuff up. The Deviants, even in my head, it's all, you know, kind of corrupted right now. So you have the Eternals, you have the, you know, the whatever's in between, and then you have the Deviants. They're just, what you need to understand is that there always needs to be balance. When the Eternals react or act, so do the Deviants. The more powerful they become, so do the Deviants as well. So there is that balance at all times. So for example, the end game, if they were to go in and create this like massive, you know, effort, the Deviants would also do the same. Now Deviants, I keep saying Deviants, these are like basically demons and creatures, and kind of like Catan, as we said, who basically is basically just corrupted, basically, in the sense that they're just there to not basically destroy life, but just, you know, they're full of this maleficent kind of, you know, ideals and just evil in general. So yeah, so that is one of the reasons why I haven't seen the movie yet, and I think this is why they couldn't, you know, get involved. And I mean, according to the books, this is one of the reasons why I would assume they couldn't get involved. Anyways, that being said, there was a time that the Deviants actually took over, to the point where they had the world in chaos. When the Celestials did come back after 1,000 years, they said, you know what, this is messed up. Boom, they not destroyed, but they terraformed it a bit again, having some parts of the Earth scatter and actually have Atlantis sink. So this is going to be important because later on we find out, you know, that we may have Namor coming into the Marvel Universe, to the MCU, as we've seen Wakanda, you know, report that there are activity underwater. So this can be a clear indication that there is going to be a Namor effort going forward. All right. So that all being said, we also have basically the gods. So we do have gods within the Marvel Universe as well. So like Odin, for example, you know, he comes in, he actually reunites with a lot of gods around the world, or around, I guess, yeah, of the 9 realms. And they say, you know what, if the Celestials were to come back, were they be a threat? How would we be able to defeat them? You know, we can't have these people, you know, be in peril every time they come to Earth. So now, basically, they created the Destroyer. So we've seen the Destroyer in the first Thor movie, and yeah, it was basically created to defend basically the 9 realms, and also, well, obviously Asgard and everything else in between. So that's why you see this with his big grand stature. It's not just this, you know, big guard dog that is meant there for, you know, Odin's personal, like, trophy case. Anyways, this all being said, we're finally getting into the actual movie itself. So what I've told you right there, again, is also why maybe in the theaters it's not being, you know, considered the way it was, because it is going to be a heavy movie. I mean, talking about, you know, the Prometheus, the way it came out, and then people were kind of like, eh. But then after watching it and actually understanding that it's actually the origin of life for a lot of things on Earth and other things, basically, and, you know, aliens, obviously, this is kind of the same thing. So speaking of, you know, genes and everything as well, they actually created also the X gene that's actually amongst everybody, and it's basically a dormanted gene that needed something to basically needed a catalyst to basically become awake, woke, and basically became the X-Men. So that being said, this is actually pointing us towards the X-Men once again, because we've seen what we thought that the X-Men would appear in the Scarlet Witch, the WandaVision show. Well, she would, maybe have them appear rather than make them disappear, and that wasn't the case. And then in this case, we're actually introducing another crucial point for the X-Men, because this is actually the origin of the X gene. Because then later on, Apocalypse, basically is the first one to have his gene awaken, and then that basically created, the birth of the X-Men itself by having everybody else, progress in that time of evolution. So now that I've mentioned all that, we're gonna go more into details of the Eternals that we have currently within this movie. So we have, for example, Ajax. She's able to communicate with the Celestials directly. The rest of them aren't able to, so the rest of them just go on what she says. So that's going to be a crucial part within this whole thing. There's also another character called Icarus that people are calling Superman of the MCU. We actually already have a Superman, which is Sentry, who's basically Marvel's answer to Superman. You're going to see that he has, besides the laser eyes and great strength, he doesn't really fly and do other things as well, just like Superman does. So you want to he has also his faults, and they all do have their faults as well. They're not like the perfect being as the Celestials claim them to be. So then you also have Athena. So not Athena. I know everyone's like, oh, is that the Greek goddess? So there was actually wars that occurred because there is that devotion towards Athena, and everything that was created for Athena was actually for Athena. And then there's like this kind of like, oh, it's for me, it's for me. Anyways. So there's going to be a lot of sourness within all that as well, and there's going to be a lot of like resentment towards humanity because of that. And yeah, there's going to be other characters that do, like I said, give a hand to the human race. So for example, we have Fatsis, who basically gives not engineering but like creativity and like helps them basically evolve with these really cool technological stuff. And yeah, it's gonna be a movie where basically they'll have to intervene because deviants are now coming out. So it could be because of the walls that were open in Shang-Chi, the multiverse that is being collided. So now the deviants are actually having a great time because now they're actually escaping certain portals. It could be also that the dark hold that Scarlet Witch actually opened up may have actually brought Kachan back onto Earth. That may have also helped him, release a few other deviants, and that is why only now the Eternals can come to react, because there needs to be that balance. Only when deviants act, that's when the Eternals can react. So we're gonna see a lot of the different layers. So we're probably gonna see a lot more towards the cosmos, as we've seen, with the What If series. Now we're gonna see more like where do we fit in all of this, and how does it progress with the Phase 4. They're gonna set up new characters. So like we said, Namor. They're gonna create also the X-Men, or at least hint that this is how the creation of X-Men is gonna happen. It could also be that in Fantastic Four, where they get their first radiation blasts, it triggers the gene, and then that's how everything multiplies and goes on. Again, we don't know. It's all into Marvel's hands. And yeah, I think they're doing such a great job so far. I would definitely highly suggest you check out the Eternals. I mean, it's going to explain so much, and there's going to be so much depth into it. And again, the Eternals, just to highlight again, they're not evil. Like, for example, Ego was not evil. It was just that his understanding of life was to create and to spread. So not being attached to the other Celestial, he basically created other beings like himself, waited for them to grow and then harvest to basically become the alter ego. But again, the Celestials were just created to create life, and if it's not the way that they seem fit, they destroy it. We are not perfect, and that is definitely why they destroy us in a heartbeat. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that very heavy handed description of everything in between and all the layers that goes into making all of this. Maybe that's also why it's kind of hard to digest seeing it in the movie. Haven't seen it yet. Can't wait to see it. If you have seen it, put it in the comments below. We definitely want to hear what were your thoughts about it. Besides all that, if there's anything you want to know additionally, definitely put it in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to answer it for you. And yeah, please be sure to like it if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you want more content like this. And one more thing to tickle your funny bone is that we're actually going to have, also as we mentioned, Dan Mendoza on our show. That is going to be our next episode. So we'll have Dan the Man on our show talking about his current Kickstarter that has been going crazy on the internet, and all of the work that he's done and some of the future projects coming up. Anyways, guys, I've said a mouthful. That is enough. Take it easy, guys. Peace.